Do you hear it? The echoes of the past, the whispers of forgotten truths, fragments of memories lost in the shadows. Welcome to BRAINROT, Echoes, where we bring you stories long buried, unravel mysteries cloaked by time, and guide you through the darkest corners of the mind and the universe. Each video is more than just content. It's an echo resonating deep within, urging you to question, to wonder, to explore. Backend index pointing right, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and join us in listening to the echoes the world tried to silence. The Babel box, humanity's last resort. Inside Hangar 7 at Edwards Air Force Base, a chaotic order reigned. The air was thick with the scent of oil, molten metal, and a strange, indescribable tang from Alliance technology. Amidst the pandemonium, Dave Elliott, head of the UI design team, stood before a worn-out group, their eyes bloodshot after 37 continuous hours of work. The problem, he explained, his voice hoarse, is that we're trying to create an interface between two completely different technological philosophies. He gestured to a diagram on a large screen. Alliance tech is heavily integrated with their biology. It's intuitive for them because it was designed for their neural patterns. Our tech is external, mechanical, with deliberate barriers between user and system. Dr. Sokolov, a white-haired neuroscientist, nodded, adding, "And we need to preserve those barriers to maintain our invisibility to the Vex while still allowing our pilots to access the full capabilities of the Alliance power systems." Exactly. Dave pointed to the prototype interface they'd cobbled together. It was a bizarre hybrid of holographic displays, mechanical controls, and neural feedback loops that looked like someone had welded parts from a fighter jet cockpit onto the bridge of a sci-fi spaceship. It's ugly as sin, but it should work. The Alliance systems think they're being operated by an Alliance pilot, while the human pilot is actually controlling everything through our interfaces. Dr. Emil Novak, the brilliant material scientist, ambled over, his clothes covered in what appeared to be a combination of engine grease and an iridescent alien substance. "How's the UI coming? Because I've got 12 hybrid warheads ready to go, and I'd prefer if the delivery system didn't crash before we could drop them off." Dave gave him a thumbs up. "We're calling it the Babel box. It's hideous, but functional, like a website from the early 2000s, but it'll get the job done." Novak grinned. "Good, because my babies are ready to dance." He patted the tablet he was carrying, which displayed schematics for what looked like standard Earth explosives that had been modified with alien technology in ways that made Dave's head hurt just looking at them. "Please tell me those aren't going to blow up before we deliver them," Dave said. "Almost certainly not," Novak replied cheerfully. "The Alliance power cores give us about 1,000 times the yield of our best conventional explosives, all packed into something the size of softball. One of these hits a Vex processor core, and boom, no more Vex ships. And if it hits literally anywhere else, then we've given the Vex a very expensive light show and probably made them very angry." Novak scratched his neck. Precision delivery is kind of the whole ballgame here. A loud clang from across the hangar drew their attention. Captain Wright was standing atop one of the retrofitted spacecraft, a modified SpaceX Starship that now bristled with alien technology in ways that somehow managed to look both advanced and like something assembled in someone's garage. "Listen up," she called out, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Launch is in 5 hours. I need all systems checks completed in 3. Crew briefing in 4. If you're still attaching things with the space equivalent of bubblegum and prayers, now's the time to wrap it up." Dave turned back to his team. "You heard the captain. Let's make sure our pilots can actually fly these contraptions without accidentally sending themselves into another dimension." As the team scattered to finalize their work, Lieutenant Krell approached, her tentacles moving in what Dave had learned was a pattern indicating concern. "Mr. Elliott, a moment of your time." Dave nodded, setting down the tablet he'd been working on. "What's up, Lieutenant?" Having second thoughts about trusting the galaxy's safety to a bunch of primates with screwdrivers. The alien's beak twisted in what might have been a smile. "On the contrary, I've been impressed by your species' ability to adapt to our technology. It would have taken an Alliance engineering team months to accomplish what you've done in days." Nothing motivates human innovation like an imminent apocalypse, Dave said. Plus, half of what we've done probably violates about a dozen safety protocols that Alliance engineers would have been too responsible to ignore. That is exactly my point, Krell said. Your willingness to take risks, to cut corners, as you say, is both terrifying and exactly what this mission requires. Dave frowned. Why do I feel like there's a but coming? Lieutenant Krell's tentacles rippled. The Admiral has received updated intelligence. The Vex fleet has accelerated its approach to the Proxima Centauri system. They will arrive in approximately 7 of your Earth hours, but launch isn't for 5 hours, and we need at least another 3 hours of travel time to reach the intercept point. Dave said, the implications sinking in. We'll be cutting it too close. Correct. Which is why I've come to you. The alien's voice lowered. The Admiral believes we should abort the mission, withdraw Alliance forces, and prepare alternative defenses. Alternative defenses? You mean write off Earth as a lost cause? Lieutenant Krell's silence was answer enough. Dave ran a hand through his hair, mind racing. We need a launch now. Not in 5 hours. Now. The systems aren't fully tested. They never are. Dave cut her off. Look, I've been in software development for 15 years. You know what happens if you wait until everything is perfect? You never launch. Sometimes you have to push the button and fix the bugs in the first update. This isn't software, Mr. Elliot. If these ships fail, then we're no worse off than if we do nothing, Dave finished. But if they work, even partially, we have chance. And a partial chance is better than no chance at all. Lieutenant Krell studied him for a long moment, her alien features unreadable. Finally, her tentacles settled into a pattern that Dave hadn't seen before. What does that mean? He asked, gesturing to her tentacles. It means against my better judgment, I find your argument persuasive. She turned toward the command center. I will speak with the Admiral. Prepare your teams for immediate launch. As she glided away, Dave called after her. Lieutenant, what was that tentacle pattern just now? I haven't seen it in your emotional lexicon. She paused, turning back slightly. There is no direct translation. The closest would be, resigned to the catastrophic chaos of working with humans. Dave grinned. You should add that one to the official Alliance dictionary. I have a feeling you'll be using it a lot. A last chance. This is either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever done, Captain Wright asserted as she strapped herself into the pilot's seat of the lead ship, now unofficially christened Hail Mary by its crew. Beside her, Dr. Sokolov finished her own pre-flight checks on the jerry-rig systems. In quantum mechanics, an action can be both until observed. Schrodinger's mission, if you will. Not helping, Doctor. Dave's voice came through the comms from Mission Control, where he was coordinating the interface systems across all 12 ships. All Babel boxes are online and functioning. Well, functioning as well as can be expected for something we invented 2 days ago. Very reassuring, Wright replied dryly. Status on the other ships? All reporting ready for launch. Dr. Novak is planning a Plan B with his team and warheads. The rest of the ships have their designated payloads and teams and our alien friends. Admiral Zixter's voice cut in. Alliance command ship is maintaining position just beyond your moon's orbit. We will provide real-time intelligence and emergency extraction if necessary. If necessary, Wright repeated. Let's hope it isn't. All ships, final systems check. As the crews reported in, Dave watched from the makeshift mission control they'd established in Hangar 7. Around him, a mix of military personnel and Alliance advisors monitored the status of the hybrid vessels. Lieutenant Krell moved to stand beside him. Your species continues to surprise me, Mr. Elliot. Most civilizations would be paralyzed with fear at this point. Dave snorted. Oh, we're terrified. We've gotten really good at functioning while screaming internally. A useful adaptation. Plus, Dave added, humans have this weird quality where the more impossible something seems, the more some of us want to try just to prove it can be done. The alien's tentacles rippled in what Dave now recognized as amusement. The Admiral has a theory about your species. He believes you evolved this trait because your planet is unusually hostile by galactic standards. Earth hostile. Consider extreme temperature variations, multiple apex predators, regular natural disasters, constantly shifting terrain, and a remarkable variety of ways to die from microscopic organisms. Most evolved sentience come from much more stable environments. Dave laughed. So what you're saying is we're Space Australia. Everything on our planet was trying to kill us, so we got weird and tough. Before Krell could respond, Captain Wright's voice came through the comms. All systems go. Initiating launch sequence. The hangar doors slid open, revealing the night sky above. One by one, the 12 retrofitted spacecraft rose on columns of flame that shifted from standard rocket exhaust to an eerie blue glow. As the Alliance power systems engaged, Dave watched the monitors as the ships accelerated at a rate that should have been impossible for vessels of their size and construction. Another gift from Alliance technology. They're away, he reported, unable to keep the mix of awe and terror from his voice. Transit time to Proxima Centauri intercept point, 2 hours, 17 minutes. Lieutenant Krell's tentacles went still. The Vex fleet will arrive in 3 hours, 42 minutes. They will detect the Proxima system and begin their scans 1 hour later. So our window is narrow. The alien finished. Extremely narrow. Dave nodded, eyes fixed on the tracking displays. Well, if there's one thing humans are good at, it's squeezing through narrow windows, usually right at the last possible second, just to make it more dramatic. Is that supposed to be reassuring? Not really, Dave admitted, but it's kind of our thing. Shadows and surprises. The journey to the intercept point was surprisingly uneventful, which Captain Wright found more unnerving than reassuring. The hybrid ships moved through space at speeds that Earth technology alone could never have achieved, guided by human hands through interfaces that shouldn't have worked, but somehow did. Status report, she called out. As they approached the designated coordinates, Dr. Sokolov consulted the bizarre mashup of screens and holographic displays that constituted their navigation system. We're approaching the outer boundary of the Proxima Centauri system. All ships maintaining formation. No sign of Vex activity yet. In the cargo hold of the ship designated Plan B, Dr. Novak was making final adjustments to the hybrid warheads. Each one contained a core of Alliance energy technology surrounded by a shell of human-designed explosives. A combination that Alliance engineers had initially declared impossible until Novak demonstrated otherwise with a test that had left a crater in the Nevada desert. How are we doing back there, Doc? Wright's voice came through the intercom. Just giving my babies their pep talk, Novak replied, patting one of the warheads delightfully. They're ready to meet their destiny. Save the poetry for after we survive this, Wright replied. We're reaching the deployment zone in 10 minutes. Aboard the Hail Mary, Captain Wright turned to her co-pilot, a young Air Force lieutenant named Dmitry Volov, who had been selected for his experience with experimental aircraft. Remember the plan, she said. We stay dark until the last possible moment. No active scans, minimal communications. We're just space junk as far as the Vex are concerned. Volkov nodded, his hands hovering over controls that had been standard flight sticks 2 days ago, and now were integrated with alien technology in ways that defied easy explanation. What if they do spot us? He asked. Then we deploy early and hope for the best, Wright answered. But according to our alien friends, the Vex are creatures of pattern and prediction. They don't expect us, so they won't be looking for us. And we all know how reliable alien intelligence has been throughout human history, Volov stated before adding hastily. Fictional human history, I mean. Wright managed a tight smile. Well, if they're wrong, we'll never know it. We'll just be space dust. The comms crackled to life with Admiral Zixter's voice. Alliance sensors have detected the leading edge of the Vex fleet entering the system. Estimate 63 of your minutes until they reach final position. Copy that, Wright replied. All ships maintain current trajectory and speed. Radio silence from this point forward unless absolutely necessary. As the minutes ticked by, tension built across the small fleet. The hybrid ships continued their approach, now moving on minimal power to reduce their signature even further. In mission control, Dave watched the sensor feeds with growing anxiety. They're really cutting it close, he murmured. Lieutenant Krell's tentacles twisted in a pattern he now recognized as tension. The Vex fleet is deploying faster than anticipated. Their advanced scouts will begin system scanning in approximately 47 minutes, and our ships reach deployment position in 39 minutes. Dave did the math. That's an 8-minute window. Not exactly comfortable indeed. The displays showed the human fleet as small blue dots, moving steadily toward their target zone. The Vex fleet appeared as a spreading red cloud at the edge of the system. Massive, organized, and utterly terrifying in its mechanical precision. They really don't know we're coming, do they? Dave asked, watching the Vex ships arrange themselves in a perfect geometric pattern for their system scan. The concept of humans piloting spacecraft with Alliance technology is so far beyond their predictive algorithms that they would dismiss it as a statistical impossibility, Lieutenant Krell replied. It would be like expecting a Stone Age human to pilot a modern jet fighter, which is exactly what we're doing in relative terms. Dave pointed out exactly why it might work. On the main view screen, the distance between the human fleet and the Vex armada continued to shrink. The Alliance command ship hovering at the edge of Earth's solar system relayed real-time updates on Vex movements and deployments. Vex command ships are taking position, reported one of the Alliance officers. They appear to be preparing for a standard sweep and clear operation. Admiral Zixter's mandibles clicked rapidly. They're deploying earlier than expected. Captain Wright must accelerate her approach. Dave keyed the secure channel. Captain, be advised. Vex deployment has accelerated. Your window is shrinking. Wright's voice came back tense, but controlled. Copy that. Adjusting approach vector. All ships increase power to 70%. Let's hope they're as blind to us as we think they are. The blue dots on the display accelerated, closing the distance more rapidly now. The risk of detection increased with their speed, but it was a calculated risk, one they had no choice but to take. 30 kilometers to deployment zone. Dr. Sokolov reported aboard the Hail Mary. Vex fleet is establishing their scanning perimeter. Any indication they've spotted us? Wright asked. Negative. No change in their formation or activity. Wright allowed herself a small breath of relief. All ships prepare for payload deployment. We hit them fast and scatter before they know what happened. In the Plan B, Dr. Novak finished his final checks on the warheads. Payloads are hot and ready. Just get us within range of their command processors. The minutes crawled by with excruciating slowness. In mission control, Dave found himself holding his breath as the human fleet entered the outer perimeter of the Vex deployment zone. They're in, he whispered, and the Vex aren't reacting. Lieutenant Krell's tentacles undulated slowly. Remarkable. Your ships are registering as nothing more than orbital debris to their sensors. Space junk for the win. Dave muttered, then louder. Captain, you are clear to proceed with deployment. Vex ships remain unaware. Aboard the Hail Mary, Captain Wright nodded to Volov. Initiate final approach. All ships prepare to deploy on my mark. The 12 human vessels adjusted their course, each one targeting a specific Vex command ship. The hybrid engines operated at minimal power, pushing the ships forward on what appeared to be simple momentum to any watching sensors. Range to target 15 kilometers, Sokolov reported. 12. 10 standby for deployment, Wright ordered. At exactly 8 kilometers, Wright gave a command. Deploy payloads now. Across all 12 ships, specialized launch tubes ejected their cargo, the hybrid warheads developed by Dr. Novak. Each one targeted at the vulnerable processor cores of the Vex command ships. Payloads away. Wright confirmed. All ships full reverse thrust and evasive maneuvers on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark. The human ships suddenly flared to life. Alliance power systems engaged at full capacity as they executed a maneuver that would have been impossible with Earth technology alone. A complete reversal of direction coupled with a random scatter pattern designed to confuse any targeting systems that might lock to them. In mission control, Dave watched as the deployed warheads appeared as tiny green dots on the display, continuing on their trajectory toward the Vex ships. The Vex are still not reacting, Lieutenant Krell observed, her tentacles writhing with what might have been excitement. The warheads are registered as natural space debris. Time to impact, Admiral Zixter demanded. 47 seconds, one of the Alliance officers reported. In time until the Vex completes their deployment and activates full scanning protocols. 52 seconds. The Admiral's compound eyes glittered. It's going to be very, very close. Dave keyed the comms again. Captain, be advised. You have approximately 40 seconds until impact. Vex will activate full scanning in approximately 45 seconds. Copy that. Wright's voice came back. All ships are executing evasive withdrawal. Dr. Novak reports all payloads are on target and armed. The tension in mission control was palpable as they watched the final approach of the warheads. The Vex ships maintained their precise formation, utterly oblivious to the threat bearing down on them. 30 seconds to impact, Dave counted down. 20, 10. And then, with sudden and terrifying clarity, the display showed the Vex ships beginning to move, breaking their formation, and hurriedly. They've detected the warheads, Lieutenant Krell exclaimed, her tentacles flaring wide in alarm. Impossible. Admiral Zixter's mandibles clicked furiously. Their sensors shouldn't. 5 seconds to impact. Dave interrupted. Captain, the Vex are moving. Too late for them. Wright's voice came back, a hint of grim satisfaction evident even through the static. Novak's babies are locked on. The display erupted in a cascade of light as the first warhead made contact with its target, a Vex command ship at the center of their formation. For a split second, nothing happened. Then a pulse of energy rippled outward, visible even on the sensors as a shockwave of disruption that tore through the ship's structure. Direct hit, someone shouted in mission control. One by one, the remaining warheads found their marks. Some of the Vex ships had begun evasive maneuvers, but the simple ballistic trajectory of the human weapons, coupled with their near invisibility to Vex sensors, made them almost impossible to avoid at such close range. Each impact resulted in the same distinctive energy pulse followed by cascading system failures across the targeted ships. The precise combination of Alliance energy technology and human explosives created a reaction that overwhelmed the Vex processors exactly like Dr. Novak had predicted. 8 hits confirmed, reported an Alliance officer. 9, 10. The last 2 warheads missed their primary targets as the Vex ships executed desperate evasive maneuvers. But even 10 strikes out of 12 was beyond anything the Admiral had dared to hope for. The Vex command structure is in disarray, Lieutenant Krell announced, her tentacles writhing in what was unmistakably excitement. Their network is failing. On the main display, the remaining Vex ships began moving erratically, their perfect formation dissolving into chaos. Without their command ships to coordinate their actions, the individual vessels reverted to basic programming, and that programming did not account for attacks from supposedly primitive species using hybrid technology. All ships report status. Dave called over the comms. Captain Wright's voice came through first. Hail Mary is intact and withdrawing at full speed. Minor damage from debris, but systems are functional. One by one, the other ships reported in. All 12 had survived the initial engagement, though several had sustained damage from proximity to the explosions or from debris. The Vex fleet is retreating, Admiral Zixter announced, his mandibles clicking rapidly in what Dave had learned was his species' equivalent of astonished laughter. They're actually retreating. The display confirmed his words. The remaining Vex ships were pulling back, abandoning their planned sweep of the Proxima Centauri system in favor of a defensive regrouping. Did we just win? Dave asked, hardly daring to believe it. Lieutenant Krell's tentacles formed a pattern he hadn't seen before. Something complex and beautiful. Not the war, Mr. Elliot, but this battle, yes, decisively. Admiral Zixter turned to address the mission control team. The Vex will analyze this defeat. They will adapt their sensors, adjust their tactics, but it will take time. Time the Alliance desperately needed. And in that time, we can prepare further surprises for them. With all due respect, Admiral, Dave said, I think I've had enough surprises for 1 week. The Admiral's compound eyes fixed on him. Then you may want to cover your auditory organs, Mr. Elliot, because I'm about to deliver another one. He paused, mandibles clicking softly. The Galactic Alliance would like to formally invite Earth to join as a probationary member. Your species has proven itself unexpectedly valuable. A stunned silence fell over mission control, broken only when one of the military officers let out a whoop of celebration that quickly spread throughout the room. Dave turned to Lieutenant Krell. Is he serious? The Admiral, I mean. Her tentacles rippled in amusement. Entirely serious. Although I should warn you, Alliance bureaucracy makes your Earth governments look efficient by comparison. The paperwork alone might take decades. That's not what I expected to be worried about when discussing joining a galactic civilization, Dave admitted. The universe is full of surprises, Mr. Elliot. The legacy of chaos. 3 months later, Dave found himself back at Edwards Air Force Base, though under very different circumstances. Hangar 7 had been transformed from a chaotic emergency workshop into a permanent facility dedicated to human alliance technological collaboration. The translation interface is coming along nicely, Dr. Sokolov said, gesturing to the latest version of what had once been called the Babel box and was now officially designated the Human Alliance Neural Interface System, although everyone still called it the Babel box behind the bureaucrats' backs. Much more elegant than our first attempt, Dave agreed, although I still think the holographic controls could use some work. The response time is laggy. That's because you're thinking in human terms, came a familiar voice. Dave turned to see Lieutenant Krell gliding towards them, her tentacles arranged in the pattern he now recognized as a friendly greeting. Lieutenant, I didn't know you were back on Earth. I returned yesterday with the Admiral. The Alliance Council has approved the next phase of our collaboration. Dave raised an eyebrow. Let me guess. They want us to jury-rig more Earth tech with Alliance power systems to confuse the Vex. Actually, Lieutenant Krell's beak twisted in what he'd learned was her version of a smile. They want to incorporate human design principles into Alliance technology. Your species' approach to problem-solving has proven illuminating. You mean our habit of duct-taping solutions together and hoping for the best? I mean, your ability to find unconventional solutions exactly because you don't know what's supposed to be impossible. She gestured to the modified spacecraft nearby, where Dr. Novak was working with a team of engineers. The Vex have begun adapting their sensors to detect our hybrid vessels. Dr. Novak's team is already developing countermeasures that no Alliance engineer would have considered. Dave smiled. Yeah, he's talking about something involving actual physical chaff, like metal strips combined with Alliance phase-shifting technology. Says it'll make our ships look like quantum confetti to Vex sensors. Will it work? No idea, but that's never stopped us before. Captain Wright joined them, now wearing a new uniform patch that featured Earth alongside the symbol of the Galactic Alliance. Lieutenant, good to see you. I assume you're here for the demonstration. Demonstration? Dave asked. Wright grinned. The first squadron of fully integrated hybrid fighters is ready for a test flight. Alliance power systems, human controls, and a few special modifications, courtesy of Dr. Novak and his team. The Admiral is particularly interested in what you call Plan B, Lieutenant Krell added. Dave laughed. Of course he is. Aliens travel across the galaxy with technology centuries beyond ours. And what impresses them most is our backup plans for when everything goes wrong. It's not just that. Lieutenant Krell's tentacles formed a thoughtful pattern. It's your species' fundamental understanding that things will go wrong and your preparation for that inevitability. Most Alliance species evolved in environments stable enough that they developed a belief in perfect solutions. Humans know better. So, we're teaching advanced aliens the value of expecting disaster. Dave shook his head. That's actually pretty on brand for humanity. Indeed, Lieutenant Krell's tentacles rippled with amusement. The Admiral has a saying now, borrowed from your Earth languages. For elegant problems, consult the Mivians. For elegant solutions, consult the 3X. For inelegant problems with no elegant solutions, call a human. Captain Wright laughed. I'll take that as a compliment. As you should, Lieutenant Krell said. The Vex believed help would never arrive for the Alliance because they calculated all possible responses from known species. They never accounted for humans. Dave smiled. So, we're the galaxy's wild card. More than that, Mr. Elliot. You're the storm no one saw coming. Lieutenant Krell's tentacles formed the now familiar pattern of respect. And the galaxy is better for it. Outside, the first squadron of Earth Alliance hybrid fighters rose into the clear blue sky. Their engines flaring with a distinctive blue-white glow that was neither fully human nor fully alien technology, but something new, something unexpected, just like humanity itself.